Well, we'd like to welcome Tim Morris, CEO and founder of Agentsy, to our podcast today, Marketing Chemistry. Really excited to have you on the podcast, mate. It's been a while.
Thank you, Nathan. It has been a little while. Good to catch up. Yeah, we saw each other a lot over the years, but it has been a little while.
It has been, yeah. And I think it's good timing in the sense of what we're going to be talking about today, which is all things AI and obviously Agentsy, which is your company that you founded. How many years ago now was that? Did you kick it off?
It was the beginning of last year, so beginning of 2024. But yeah, so I finished up the Entourage where we did a lot of work together at the end of 23. Knew this was definitely the space I was moving into. And then, we really kind of, I started doing a little bit of work for some different companies, helping them try to navigate AI a little bit at the end of 23, but it was early 24 when we kicked off Agentsy.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, it feels like, I sort of just talk about timing. I mean, compared to where AI is now, 2024, it was still, it felt like it was still kind of early days, early 2024, but it felt like you really hit it at the right time. So, we'll dig into that a little bit more, but love to just quickly get a bit of a backstory. Obviously, I know you, Tim, from Entourage days working together as a partner, but love to just dig into a little bit about your backstory, your career path, how you got into Agentsy, and then we'll go from there.
Yeah, for sure. So my background's kind of always been in the entrepreneurial business building space. I studied an entrepreneurship degree in Melbourne at RMIT University back in the early 2000s, which was when there weren't really any entrepreneurs in Australia. This is pre-Facebook, pre-YouTube, the whole tech startup scene. So I studied that, but back then it was like, really the only entrepreneurship was corporate entrepreneurship, right? And so that was my first business. So I launched a product development business for large companies to help them go in and develop new products and new services and kind of improve the way they were doing things, which I now kind of laugh about because there was me, early 20s, going and telling these CEOs what to do in their business. And I'm like, if I was me now, looking back at me then, I'd be like, who are you? So
go get a coffee. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Don't tell me what to do. So that was the first business, Dynamic Horizons. Ran that for a number of years. I had a great business partner and mentor, a guy called Jason Cotton. So that was first sort of foray into my own business. I then moved pretty heavily into the ed tech space. So I had another business called Learn Lab, which was all about helping. This is really around the time of the flipped learning revolution and starting to get education online. And so we were helping the large universities do that, but also helping a lot of what are today's kind of Australian ed tech champions. I helped with a lot of their early product development. Yeah, right. So always a pretty strong technical kind of bent. Was doing a lot of website development and LMSs and all that fun stuff. And then that's kind of what led me to the Entourage, right? There was a number of other things along the way, but because I was very heavily in that education area, that's what led me to the Entourage. So I joined that business in 2015, very early 2015, as the head of product first, like to help, strengthen all of the educational content and delivery and all the rest of that. So jumped on board there, pretty quickly moved into the GM role and then moved into the CEO role for a number of years there. So a lot of good fun. And while as I progressed, I probably got a little bit less and less on the tools, a little bit more removed from the technology. I'm just a massive geek, I suppose. Like I've always tried to stay as deep in it as I possibly can, help drive our move from Salesforce to HubSpot, which was probably the precursor to us meeting and doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah. I built our first AI chatbot for the Entourage in 2017 using what is now very, very old school technology. We use a platform that's now called Dialogflow. It's owned by Google, but it was called something completely different back in the day.
Yeah, right.
So I built a chatbot called Ari that had all of our Entourage knowledge base in it, and you can interact with it in Slack. And it did a couple of things really, really well, and I did some other things not so well. But I'd been keeping an eye on the space since then. And then it was really in early 22, so pre-ChatGPT, but in early 22, you could access the new large language models via the developer playgrounds. And so I was having a play in there, and I'm like, wow, this has come so far from Ari several years ago. This is pretty exciting. So that's kind of where I started really dialing in on this kind of being the next chapter for me.
Yeah, no, yeah. And I think we met in, I think it was late 2020 actually.
Yeah.
So could have even spilled over into 20. No, I think it was late 2020. Yeah, I remember meeting you and talking about partnership, and I think we were one of the first sort of marketing agency partners that
Yeah.
Entourage had into your sort of growth agency or growth business.
Yeah.
So that really set us up from the very beginning as well in our sort of agency journey. And then I think, yeah, HubSpot was a natural conversation. You guys were migrating at that time or very shortly after from
Yeah.
Salesforce to HubSpot. So yeah, it was all kind of you guys, very fond memories of working with you. And I mean, you were always a phenomenal CEO of the business. So yeah, really valued our partnership over the
Awesome.
years for sure.
Awesome. The growth agency part of the business was super, super interesting and also very aligned to kind of my focus in business. And so at the Entourage, a lot of what we focus on is marketing and sales and helping the businesses that are members of the Entourage improve their marketing and sales. And you do, and you always have the dynamic side of marketing and sales, like what are we putting out there? How are we having our sales conversations? How are we connecting with customers? It's kind of the dynamics. And then you got the mechanics, which is like, well, what's the process that we're following? And what's the data flow? And what's the sales process and conversion rates? And I love that part of underpinning all parts of business. And with the growth agency, that's when we did get pretty deep into helping businesses improve their kind of like technical underpinnings. Yeah, we did a lot of CRM implementation, mainly HubSpot, because it's amazing how big a business can get running on a spreadsheet. Like the number of businesses, $20 million, $30 million. And they're like, oh yeah, we've got the master list, which is like a big Excel document.
Yeah, version 6.
It's like version 107/Tim. But it is quite funny on the CRM side. I actually talk about this quite a lot in relation to AI. So it's funny how big a business will get running on a spreadsheet, and then things are falling apart. They can't trace, their leads through to their sales pipeline. They've got no idea what's going to convert, where they're going to land. And so the answer that they need a CRM is pretty obvious, right? And they kind of like, yes, okay, I get it. I need to move on to a good best-in-class CRM. The process for doing that is it's a well-trodden path, right? You know how to do it. But sometimes you still got to be really, really influencing them to make the decision. On the other side, they're like, oh my God, I can't believe we survived without it. But it's kind of like they know what they need to do. They know how to do it, but there's still a bit of resistance.
Yeah.
Now I compare that to the AI age now, where it's like a lot of businesses have got like no idea what they're going to use it for. They've got no idea how to implement it, but they desperately want it, which is a fun position to be in, but it's the opposite. And so, yeah, like my focus has always been on like what's the process that underpins stuff. And then, when this wave of AI, the current wave that we're in really started kicking in early 22, and then obviously the ChatGPT moment in late 22, I just straight away saw like, oh, wow, there's a whole bunch of potential here to help with those underlying processes and systems that underpin, marketing, sales for sure, but also all the other parts of the business. So it's kind of just been a nice coming together of, my business focus, my mechanics focus, my geekiness, all come together.
Well, it's, I thought when you left the Entourage, like that was a big shock given, you were the CEO and, it was a big role. But I remember thinking like, wow, that's sort of a big call, to go all in on AI. And I mean, hello, look at us now. You've definitely made the right call. A bit of a profit there in terms of, as you said, ChatGPT was kind of in the very early, was it released late 22 or 23? I'm trying to remember.
Very end of 22. Yeah. And then, but it was kind of, and it's certainly in the whole, like it had a big uptick immediately, but it was probably like really starting to be like everywhere by early 23. And then it was around, so I'm just concurrently to this, I was getting itchy feet to build something new from scratch.
Yeah.
We, in early 23, just got to work building some AI tools for the Entourage and using it in the Entourage. And that's when I'm like, okay, wow, now I'm really, really seeing tons of opportunity to apply these into not just our business, but other businesses. So it was early 23 when I made the decision, but I had a chat with Jack like very early 23 and then spent the whole year working out. Like it was very, very important to me to make sure that, I was leaving the business in the best possible way. So yeah, it was towards the end of that we let everyone know, but we'd kind of been working for
Yeah.
a little while.
And you just decided to write a book in the meantime because you had nothing else to do as well.
Yeah, the book took a long time. We've been working on the book for quite a while before that. I'm not entirely sure whether I'd write another book. It's a labor of love.
Yeah, and it's a big book. I'm like, it's not like giant font size. It's actually it's an inch thick. Elevate.
Yeah. Well,
book,
we made
right?
the decision pretty. That was Jack and I wrote that together. We made the decision pretty early on that we wanted it to be, a bit of a Bible. It does work through all the parts of a business. It kind of works through that whole, like, how do you go from a startup into a scale up, and we cover marketing and sales and product and operations and the finance and the people side. And so we just decided early on to, it needed to cover it all and needed to do it well. We definitely sometimes regretted that decision. We're like, oh my God, this is taking so long, but right.
It's a big project. So So I guess nice little segue into agency, and I guess, you mentioned that you were testing some things at the Entourage. You saw ChatGPT, OpenAI sort of doing some things. Can't remember if Gemini were doing much then, but So tell us about agency. What was the genesis of the idea? Who's it for? Love to hear a little bit more about it.
Yeah, it's definitely been a journey. Like it's an rapidly evolving space, and sort of learning about where the right application of AI in businesses is. Like, we're learning every single day. By late 23, I was looking at where the different applications of AI were starting to happen, where the technology was going, and that was when I kind of really dialed in this concept of AI agents.
Yeah.
Right. So digital workers that perform specific tasks or even slightly more all-encompassing roles for a business. I'm like, okay, this is definitely the particular part of AI that I want to play. And so that, hence the name, Agency.
SY for everyone listening, not agency, normal spelling, SY.ai.
Agents with a Y.
Nice.
But when I first came up with it, everyone was like, what the hell's an agent? And I'm like, this is what they are. This is what they do.
Well, that's right. It was early days, right? Agents were not really,
they weren't a thing. Well, they were just starting to become a thing.
Yeah.
And honestly, we've still got a long way to go, right? And this is kind of the journey that we've been on over the last, this is now, year and a half, 2 years. So want to be building AI agents for business. The product guy in me was like, I want to be building a product. I want to be building a platform that I can scale into a lot of businesses' hands. Don't particularly want to be doing like just consulting in the space or even doing custom development. But then, because I was focused on leaving the Entourage in the best way possible, I didn't start working on the business till I was done.
Sure.
And then it was only when, but I had been talking about AI in business that year on LinkedIn and with the Entourage members. So when I finished, I just had a bunch of businesses ring up and say, can you help us with this AI stuff?
Yeah.
And so immediately I was doing
AI stuff. I love that. Yeah.
Like, we just want this AI stuff.
Yeah. We know we need to be doing it. We don't know what it is, but can you just help us with it? Yeah.
And so that was initially what we'd do is we'd help, figure out where do we think the opportunities to apply AI in the business are? What do you think your kind of overarching AI strategy might be? Yep. And then we'd build some AI solutions for you. Some of them would be early versions of agents, right? But others would be like custom knowledge chatbots, process flows, a whole raft of things. So we did that for a couple of months. And then I wanted to get really focused on building the platform side of stuff. And so that was about April 23, I got accepted into the Build Club Accelerator. There's a big AI community, not just here in Australia now, but around the world. So I got accepted in their first AI accelerator. And so I used that as the opportunity to really focus on building the first version of the agency platform. So we built that, launched that in the middle of 24. And so at first, because we're actually focusing this down right now as we talk, at first, the agency platform was a set of pre-built agents that you could use for different parts of your business, and were industry agnostic, right? So we built it so you had a company assistant and a copywriting agent and a custom agent builder, that it didn't matter whether you're a marketing business or an allied health business or a consulting business, we could make it work for you. You could customize it for you. So that's how we launched the platform. Gone really well. We've got businesses in all sorts of industries. However, early this year, we started to feel on the platform side that we were getting spread too thin.
Right.
And a little bit of that was because the market kind of came to us and people were like, it's like, AI is it. We want agents for everything. They're like, we want an agent that does this. We want an agent that does this. We want an agent that does this. And, with a SaaS offering, you build it first and then they take it up. And we just got to the point where it was like, we can't possibly build every single agent that everyone wants.
Yeah.
So a couple of months ago, we started sort of saying like, hey, for the platform side of things, which is like the main focus of the building,
Yep.
of the business, for the platform side, I think we need to pick one of our existing verticals. And the biggest customers have always been in real estate. And so I went around and did a bit of a national roadshow a couple of months ago, talking to as many large real estate agencies, residential real estate agencies as I could. And it very quickly became apparent that there was a lot of hunger there, a lot of interest there. We've actually just closed off a capital raise from industry investors to focus the platform, the agency platform, on real estate. And so the agents that we already have, we're just tweaking a little bit for a real estate use case, and then we're still got a line of tons of agents to develop for real estate.
Yeah. So that's the vertical that, but it's interesting. So, I mean, real estate's probably been one of the industries. I know I was working for 12 plus years in real estate, and it's always been one of those industries that's lagged innovation in many ways. Like even from a digital marketing perspective, like, it was just REA, just run REA ads or listings or domain, and even that was like considered to be, on the edge, So that's interesting. So what type of use cases specifically for real estate, are you looking at?
Yeah. So we've already got several agents that are more internal use case focused, like that personal assistant agent. So that can help you with your emails and find documents and communicate to other team members through Teams or Slack or whatever. So there's that. There's like a company Oracle, which has all the company information. It's all in the company's tone of voice and does some cool things. So we've got several that are already in play. And then the one that we're just putting the finishing touches on and about to release is actually a sales coach. And so obviously, the sales part of a real estate agency is just a huge sales organization. And one of the most important things for a sales organization is training and practice. But it just doesn't ever happen enough. It doesn't matter what industry you're in. And so the sales coach has, a whole bunch of different role plays it can play with. It's voice based, obviously. And so you jump on, choose the role play that you want to do. Could be practicing objection handling or booking an appraisal or whatever. There's a whole bunch of them. You do the role play with the coach, and then not only does it score you, so you get a grade on how you've done, but it gives you all the feedback on how you've performed and what you can do better. And then we're just in the process of building a little leaderboard on it, because sales team loves leaderboards.
They love to know who's winning. Yeah.
But we chose that, and this might be interesting for the listeners. We chose that very specifically because it lays the foundation for all the other voice agents that we want to build. So voice is big in real estate particularly, but also in AI. The voice capabilities of AI is really exciting. It's rapidly evolving. And if we talk just with the real estate hat on, where we really want to get to is fully fledged agents that can do outbound and inbound conversation with prospective customers. It can do call down campaigns after an open for an inspection. It can do prospecting. It can handle warm leads. Like that's where we want to get to. But that is high value, high risk.
Yeah.
And so I sat down with all of our partners and we basically said, okay, how do we map back from that? That's where we want to get to. That's what we're building towards. Okay, what's a voice agent scenario that's a little bit less risky? And I'll just do a high level here, but we came back down to like tenant and landlord check-ins, right? Like the biggest problem on the property management side is that it's basically fighting fires all the time.
Yeah.
And
they've got big rent rolls. It's high volume.
Yeah, and you can't possibly get in contact with people can't possibly contact every single tenant and every single landlord every quarter or month, right? But the consequence of that is that when there's a problem, the tenant might have forgotten who their real estate agent is. They can't find the number. By the time they actually get onto someone, they're off. And it's like, a molehill has turned into a mountain. Whereas if we can actually get ahead of that and proactively get in touch with all of the tenants every quarter, make sure everything's going well. Okay, now you kind of like great application of voice AI. You're adding capacity where it wasn't before. Like you're never going to get to all of them. Great, that's kind of the next stop. So we're already building that out. Reception, another great example. And then we kind of backed all the way down to like, well, sales coach is such a perfect way to start, right? It is high value because it significantly improves the ability to convert, but it's super low risk because we're just dealing with internal people. So yeah, a lot of agents on the sales side and property management as well. And like I said, we still got a pretty long list, but
Yeah.
at least it's slightly more focused.
Yeah, and look, it's interesting because even talking to HubSpot last week in Sydney around what industries or verticals are they seeing growth, and it's actually the ones that are the laggards, like
Mm,
manufacturing, for example,
mm, mm,
is one that came into a few conversations with HubSpot. That
mm,
industries like that, real estate to a lesser degree, but
mm,
still, like they're the ones that are like they're really needing that innovation because they're sort of
yeah,
still using spreadsheets
yeah, yeah.
etc. So interesting that real estate was a good use case. And in any other industries that I mean, sounds like the MVP will be kind of real estate, but
Yeah.
any other industries that you feel will be like the next cub off the rank?
Yeah. Well, we are actually still doing a bunch of work with businesses that are not in real estate.
Yeah.
And so it's like the platform is real estate focused. So
Yeah.
the thing that we build first and then bring customers onto, that's in real estate.
Mhm.
But then we're doing a bunch of bespoke work for anyone who's not in real estate, basically. And that kind of came about because, look, I've always had a lot of companies be like, hey, can you build us something just for us? And while we had the industry agnostic platform, I was kind of like, no, we're building a platform, come onto the platform and we'll look after you there. But then as soon as I kind of like mentally made the decision that the platform is focusing on real estate, well, then it's like, okay, well, what do we offer the businesses that are not in real estate?
Yeah.
And so for that, we do like slightly more kind of like, well, let's work through the business, figure out what your problem areas are, and then we'll figure out how to apply AI. Some of them are in manufacturing, actually.
Yeah.
Where the application in manufacturing is in those more kind of like process heavy businesses is less in the agent space and more in just the AI automation space, right? And so mapping out, really good workflows, which, you've been able to do for years, but now what you can do is you can add the AI smarts into them. And so part of the reason that chatbot that I made years and years and years ago didn't work is because everything had to be mapped out perfectly. And if the conversation followed one of the flows, great. But as soon as it varied, it broke.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's the same with the old process automation, right? You had to map out the process perfectly, every single variable. And if any edge cases just broke the whole thing. But now adding AI elements into it makes it much more flexible and adaptable. So the kinds of areas that we're really focusing on, it's probably more about the type of work rather than the type of business, because you do get a lot of commonalities across different businesses and different industries. Sales and marketing, there's tons of application. The great thing about sales and marketing is they're both playing pretty closely into the current capability of AI.
Yeah, definitely.
So marketing, anything in the content generation space, there's lots of great tools that are really well built and can do lots of great stuff for you. Moving down the funnel, lead enrichment, lead discovery, there's a lot of great stuff you can do there. And then we are also, again, very heavily in the voice space, building some outbound voice-based sales development reps for companies to help run campaigns and convert more leads. It's not going to fix a bad sales process. Like if you've got to, and this is, I suppose, one of the main lessons here that I kind of try and take people through is like, it's not a magic wand. Like you can't take a rubbish process with no consistency or something that's got no, like a product that isn't compelling, add AI onto it, and then all of a sudden it's all fixed, right?
Yeah. It's not a silver bullet, but it can enhance and really help a really solid existing process, right?
Yeah. So, and so like a little example is, one of those outbound voice-based sales reps is for a mortgage broking business. Right? Now they do a great job on their marketing. They run a whole bunch of campaigns, they run some competitions, and they get tons of leads that come in. Like sometimes I might get 5,000 leads in just a couple of weeks, but they can't work through all of them.
Yeah.
They've got a small team of outbound telemarketers and they tend to actually work in shifts as well. And so they might only actually get to 25% of those leads. And they do a great job on them. That's fantastic. But what about the other 4,000 leads? And then when I put my kind of sales hat on, it's like, what about the touch patterns that we're doing? How much are we following up each lead? Are we dropping them after 3 attempts, or are we actually trying to get, up to 7 or 8 or whatever's needed to get in touch? And so that's the kind of like, it's definitely a hybrid between just traditional sales process optimization, like making sure we have a compelling offer, we're working leads well enough, we're following the process.
Good cadence of follow-ups as well.
Exactly. Multi-channel. And then we're facilitating and turbocharging that with AI. Right? And it might be a standalone little voice agent that does the calls, or it might be a far more complex automation that actually does multi-channel communications, manages all the cadence and all the rest of it. So you can kind of like, we're digging into all of that with different businesses. The key thing that I'm saying to everyone though is like, scope it down. Like choose one proof of concept, choose one project in one area, do a proof of concept. On the bespoke side of things, we like to try and get it down to like 2 or 3 week sprints max. And you want to like de-scope the project so that you're actually delivering something in that 3-week period. Test it, learn, because there's a whole bunch of learning that needs to happen. That's kind of like not tech learning. It's like, how are you giving it the right context? How are you giving it the right instruction? And I talked about that sales coach before. Actually, probably the most work has gone into refining the scripts that it's using. And that's just like hours of training.
Sure. Yeah. And how is that? Because I've seen that pop up on LinkedIn, the sort of the AI SDR or BDR sort of cold calling. And I was just interested into, it's not something that, I mean, I guess it would apply definitely in real estate, but also like even from a SaaS, outbound approach. But I've noticed recently, like I'm getting calls and it's saying like potentially fraudulent on my iPhone pop up as well. So is that something that is a bit of a spanner in the works, or is that something that you can sort of get around a little bit?
So the AI SDRs was one of the things that one of the applications of AI that got really hot really fast, but was overcooked. Right. Now, the reason why it went really hot really fast is like massive promises. Everyone's always, particularly in an economic downturn, everyone's really, really fired up about extra revenue and anything that help drive revenue. You've got budgets to drive revenue. And so you had this kind of like perfect storm of like silver bullet, overpromise, close to revenue, solving pressing problems. And so kind of went a little bit hard and didn't quite deliver. But I think we're definitely getting through that kind of like trough of disillusionment into figuring out how to make it work. The way I think about any sales process is, right, you've got to be very, very intentional about every single step of it. You need to make sure that ideally you're warming up your audience or your leads first. You've got marketing come in and generating interest.
Lead nurturing and all that.
Yeah. And getting them to convert into like, a marketing qualified lead. And so you're not like, you want to be doing as little cold outbound as you possibly can. So how do we get them warm? And then with your campaigns, then like what's the hook? What are you moving them through? How do you make sure that's a really compelling journey? And this is kind of all totally irrespective of whether it's a local AE, an offshore SDR, or an AI SDR. Like you got to get that right.
Yeah.
And what happened in the first round was people just added a whole bunch of fuel to the fire, a lot of capacity, without improving that underlying capability.
Yeah.
And from us, like we built our own offshore sales development team. We helped members at the Entourage build that as well. Like process, more grunt doesn't get you a better result, right? You need to actually like make sure that the dynamics sitting underneath it are better. So that's kind of where everyone is now. So I literally was having a conversation just before this call with a company where this is what they want to scope out, sales development, AI SDR. And I just said to them, we have to start with warm leads, right? Yeah. The ideal scenario is warm leads, but you can't get to them all.
Yeah.
And we do the work where it's like, we come up with a compelling offer. We know exactly what we're moving towards. We figure out the touch patterns that we're going to use, right? Like we cannot start with stone cold lead, but it's not going to work.
Yeah. I saw there was so much. I mean, we'll talk about this as well, about the AI hype at the moment, about everything. But I remember when the AI SDR stuff came out, there was just so much hype about it. And I can't remember who one of the big players was in the US, but it was like they had these case studies about the ROI.
Yeah.
And
it was 11x. Yeah.
Yeah. It was just like, it's too good to be true. And sure enough, probably is, right? But yeah, that's interesting. So I guess like just that AI hype zone, I mean, that's a really good use case of the SDRs, the AI SDRs. So when it comes to the state of AI at the moment, like we were talking before we jumped on the recording about, how accelerated the drops are from OpenAI, from Google, from, everyone, Claude. There's just things dropping every other week. So how do you, I guess, being in the space with Agentsy, like how do you kind of see the AI wars, if you like, at the moment, the speed of change with, new chat GPT models dropping every
Yeah.
few days, like
Yeah.
it's kind of overwhelming. And I feel like we're reasonably across it, but you're
Yeah.
obviously way more across it than we are. But yeah, love to get your point of view on,
Well,
on
I
that.
don't know if it gets any less overwhelming the closer you are to it. It might
Okay.
almost be the opposite.
Yeah.
But it's quite interesting. So there's a couple of ways I think about it. First of all, I think about it from an adoption point of view. Let's just talk like a business adoption. I think there's a bit of a two-speed economy going on where there's a lot of noise about like from whoever, vendors, YouTube stars, whatever, about like, here's all the stuff we've done with AI. It's fundamentally changing every single part of our business. It's here and now, right? There's a couple maybe leading edge people that are there, but the vast majority of everyone else is kind of like, whoa, we're way behind that. Like, we're actually really only just starting to dip our toe in the water. We're dealing with the real world complexity of not building in ideal scenarios, and oftentimes that real world complexity comes from integrating with different systems and getting different data and all the rest of it. So while you got some people that are like, we've changed every single part of our business and it's unbelievably amazing, really the reality for most businesses, we're just really starting here.
Yeah.
And it's because everything does go through that hype cycle, like the Gartner hype cycle. Everything goes through that, like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. Oh wow, this is really hard to do. And then we start getting through it. And that hype cycle, like, it takes 8 to 10 years minimum, always, right? And with some technology, like driverless cars, it's taken 25 years, right? Like, I know all we've heard about for the last 2 years is AI in business, but we're really still at the very beginning of this whole sequence. I talked about doing the website development back in the day, right? Like, huge seismic shift. Still got people spinning up their first website. You still got companies that don't have any e-commerce capability, right? So it takes a while. So we're really just kind of at the beginning, which I do say to people is like, that's great. Like, if you're starting to think about how you're implementing AI in your business, you're starting to pick it up now, you are actually ahead of the curve.
Correct. Yeah.
Which is great. I think that's kind of just important as like overall context. That being said, the thing is moving pretty fast. Stuff changes all the time. And so I think it's quite important for anyone. We've had to do this for our business. And I think any business that's trying to adopt AI is to kind of intentionally try and pick your stack for want of a better word. Like, it doesn't have to be stack, but it's like, how are we going to use AI and what tools are we going to use? Be intentional about that. Do some review of, what are other people using in your industry? What AI do you have access to in your existing technology stack? Like get a little bit intentional about like, these are the tools we're going to use and how, and then try not to get too buffeted by all of the new bright, shiny stuff that's coming out. We are enough into the cycle where there's a couple of kind of key pillars that have emerged. I got super lucky that, one of the very first tools that I built for the Entourage, and I remember saying to the team, was like, this is going to be defunct in 3 months. But we built it using LangChain, which is an AI agent framework, Pinecone vector database for a RAG retrieval augmented generation, and a React JS front end. And it's like, I'm like, this is all going to be out of date. It actually turns out that's been a nice little stack that we're still using today. Like that same, like, from an architectural point of view, those same types of tools have actually lasted the test of time. So be intentional about what you're going to use and why, and then try not to get too buffeted by all the new releases. Of course, that doesn't always map out, right? Like late last year when we were building our most sophisticated agent, a personal assistant, which is actually 5 agents that work together. The personal assistant, which is kind of the orchestrator, so that's planning on what's doing done. You've got an email agent, a calendar agent, document agent, research agent, and they all work together. But then those sub agents, they need to go and reach into other systems to get information or perform an action. Like a super simple example would be just into your email system, right? Like if it needs to go into my Gmail account to find an email from Nathan and then draft a response, we need to be able to give it access to that. Now, when we first started building this agent, the only way to do that was through these epic workflows. Right, so we had to build these workflows where you'd authenticate into your email system, you'd run all these steps, and then and it worked, but my God, it was hard work. Like you had to map out all this detail. And anyway, we were persevering. Turns out we weren't the only people dealing with that problem. right around Christmas time, Anthropic released a new protocol called MCP, Model Context Protocol,
Yeah.
which was a new way of giving AI or AI agents access to these tools that they need to access. And we look into it and we're like, oh, wow, they've really taken like what we'd very rudimentarily kind of figured out as the way to do the workflows, they'd systemized it.
Yeah. And I heard that everyone's really adopted the MCP now as the global standard. Like even Google, OpenAI, they all, so Anthropic were the ones that actually
Yep. So, and it's really good. So it's like, it was right around Christmas, maybe just before Christmas, they released it. A little bit of a slow burn. It was by kind of like Feb, people were like, oh, wow, this really is exciting. And then by like April of this year, it was like very clear that this is the way to give agents access to these other systems. MCP is the clear leader here. So we started investigating it. And I'm like, this is pretty exciting. So get together with my development team, particularly the guys that worked on the workflows. I'm like, I think MCP is going to replace all the work we did on the workflows. And I wasn't sure whether they were going to be like, oh, damn it, da-da-da. And they were like, oh, thank you. Like, those workflows are such hard work. So we had a lot of what you call technical debt there. We had to replace a whole bunch of the work that we did, but we only did it because what we've moved into is infinitely better and more scalable. So I suppose there's a couple of different threads there of how I think about all this. It's like, first of all, we're super early in this whole thing.
Yeah.
Like if you're at least looking how you're going to apply AI into your business, you're not left behind. Be reasonably intentional about like, okay, we think we're going to build on this stack and in this way, and don't get too blown off course by all the bright and shiny things. But then when there's a big leap forwards, be prepared to kind of take it. We did that with MCP. We'll also very likely do that in the voice space as well. Currently, the way you get voice agents to work is by stringing together a whole bunch of different models with different capabilities. You go from like speech to text, then response, and then text back to speech.
Right.
Which is sometimes why you get those challenges in pauses because you're doing a lot of work. The new multimodal models is actually doing all of that in one model. It's super exciting, but it's a little bit down the track, particularly for Australian customers because they don't have Australian accents.
Right. Yeah.
But so it's so we know that there'll be a bit of a planned sort of technical debt or upgrade in that area of what we do in a little bit, but we're looking forward to it.
Yeah. Now that's good, yeah. And I think that's, one of the things that has stood out to me, like just from an OpenAI perspective, has just been like the deep research availability now, like which is now available on the free plan, which is just mind blowing. And what it can do is, I mean, the disruption to knowledge businesses, consulting firms. I think you said off there, like how that's affecting what consulting firms are doing now. It's actually like maybe downsizing, restructuring because they're wanting to bake in AI and they feel like AI can do like double the amount of work for the same headcount. Not sure.
Maybe part of the reason why I love the mid-market, large SMEs or sort of smaller mid-market firms, I've always loved them because everything's always growth focused, right? It's always like, how do we do more for every medium-sized business, particularly if it's an entrepreneurial medium-sized business? It's always like, we've got more opportunity than we can pursue. So how do we get more of it? How do we be more efficient so we can do more? And this absolutely fits into that. Like the companies that I'm speaking with are not about like, we need AI to reduce our headcount. It's like, we need AI to grow.
Yes. Yeah.
And if we can, achieve double with the same headcount, that's amazing. So let's do that. Now the big end of town, maybe it's different. I've got a clear conscience because I'm not helping them do massive downsizing.
Yeah, well, that's right. Well, I look at the Accentures, the McKinseys, Deloitte, all those guys, where typically they would have massive consulting teams to do a lot of the work that, again, keeping it simple, that deep research can do in a fraction of the time. So I'm just interested to see how that will disrupt that sort of space or how that will iterate a little bit. So in terms of like a lot of our listeners are sort of marketing and sales leaders. Like we've covered a lot of the points, but what's your sort of thinking around, like, as you said, instead of being overwhelmed with the shiny object syndrome, like what can they do in a tactical way? Just to kind of recap, and then I'd love to understand with Agentsy.ai, how does that sort of tie in with some potential use cases for like a marketing or sales CMO or marketing sales leader would be
Yeah.
great.
I pretty much run the same process with every like business that I speak to. I'm like, let's work through the business, let's work through the flow of business and identify kind of the areas that are driving us the most crazy. So if I was doing it at a department by department level, right, which you might want to do, in fact, let's even put if I'm the CEO of a business and I want to kind of get my business thinking about how to apply AI, this is what I would do. I would first do a little bit of research about like what's possible. So I could bring my team together and be like, hey, look at all this amazing stuff that's happening in the world of AI. You know, we've got all, like, I'd find different like modes of application, text-based, visual, video, voice, all those kind of stuff. And I'd also find industry applications. So people that are doing similar cool stuff in similar industries to us. So I do that by kind of giving everyone a bit of an understanding of what's possible. Then after I've done that, I'd work through each department and be like, right, let's just run through our entire flow of what we do. And we want to identify all the pain points. What are the things that are just driving us crazy right now? What are the blockages? What do we wish we could do more of if we had the power? But very quickly, you come up with a bunch of opportunities. Then you say, all right, given what we kind of know about AI, where do we think the right application of AI is to solve some of these problems? And then try and pick basically one project per department. Or you maybe just might want to pick one project full stop to start with. There's a couple of little traps in there. Let's say you pick a project that you know is going to need to integrate or pull data from a whole bunch of different systems and perform actions, a whole bunch of other systems. That's probably going to be hard. Right. And so, but they are some of the problems that kind of emerge first. They're like, this drives us crazy. It's such a hard process because we're doing all this stuff across all these systems. Okay. That might also be a hard place to start. So resist that a little bit, but run the process. What are the blockages? What are the pain points? Given what we think AI is capable, what do we think some initial projects are? Then pick one of them and just work on that first. In terms of like who you get to help you do it. If you've got your own IT team, give them a crack at it. If you want to bring a consultant in, give them a shot. Tons of stuff on YouTube. Go and learn. Lots of ways.
So how to obviously with GPTs and stuff that you can create within ChatGPT, how does what are some of the limitations, I guess, of that versus say using like a platform like Agentsy, for example?
With custom GPTs that you're building in ChatGPT, I mean, really, you kind of give it some like nice contextual instructions, and so it will follow to an extent a process all the time. Where you have some limitations is like what tools you can give it access to. So tools like other systems it can access, things it can perform, and all the rest of it. So the thing with custom GPTs and using them in your business is they give you some ability to set like instructions and context for the little, not really even an agent, just for the AI to follow every single time. So they can be super, super useful. Like if you want one to write in a certain style the same way every time, or answer questions in a certain way every time, they're super useful. Where they probably become a little bit limited is like the tools that they can use. So the other systems they can interact with or the actions they can take in other systems. So that might be where you want to start looking at a more sophisticated AI platform. And so we have in our agency platform, the real estate focused platforms, we have a custom agent builder where you can build out agents and give them some more capability. In the non-real estate space, it's actually a little bit more about finding the right platform for whatever that business is. So sometimes if they're on HubSpot and they're on some of the premium levels of HubSpot, they can build some great tools in there, right? Great. The workflow capability in HubSpot is awesome. So let's do that. For other clients, we implement a platform called N8N. So the letter N, then 8, and then N. Awesome automation platform. So it's been around for a while. They've lent very, very heavily into AI automation. So you can add in AI nodes or full agents as well in there. And so we build a lot of stuff in that for particularly when you're getting down to the really detailed process stuff, that's a great platform. For the voice-based stuff, we use a platform called Vapi, V-A-P-I, a lot. Okay. Great platform. So it's really kind of about like, there's definitely no one size fits all here. For other stuff, we just custom code it all from scratch, right? It's more about like, what's the application? What does the business need? and then go that way.
It's kind of like, yeah, like it's the old jobs to be done principle, isn't it? Like I like that approach where, you go through each department, what are their pain points, maybe pick the top pain point per department, or as you said, just could be one for the whole company as a little MVP. I
Yep.
think that's a really good approach. And also what you said before around if you're just trying to use AI in your business at the moment, you're already ahead of the curve. Like even HubSpot, who $300 billion, 330 billion, can't remember, in revenue. Okay, yeah, I think it could be 30. Anyway, they also feel like they're overwhelmed. They also feel like they're at the very early stages of baking in AI into their platform. So it's sort of like, yeah, don't feel kind of like you're behind the game, or that, you feel guilty that it is overwhelming, but as long as you're trialing it and you're already doing probably you're still in the top 1%.
Yeah. The slight flip side of that, I would say, is it is important to start. And the reason why it's important to start is because the pace of change. And you do have, just like the concept of digital natives, right? Like if you're an AI native because you've lent into it early, and if your business is AI native because you've lent into it early, then you won't be the learning curve later won't be so high, because there's so much non-technical learning that needs to happen. It's not just how do we build this thing and what tools do we use to build it. It's like, what's the application? What does it work well for? Like, all that stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's interesting to definitely start, but you want to sort of pick your battles in a way, because it can become, overwhelming very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Just to wrap up, we're sort of at top of time. I guess just wanted to find out, like, any good sort of resources that you could recommend to our listeners. So whether it's podcasts, books,
particularly in the AI space. Okay.
Or where do you kind of get your like info or trending? Yeah.
There's a very good book called The Coming Wave, which is about like, as we go towards AGI, what are some of the potential threats around that, and what do we think we should put in place to prevent that? It draws a lot of great analogies with the nuclear non-proliferation. So that's super, like pretty
quite
high level
at the moment.
very topical. Super high level, like it's beyond our pay grade. But I just think that's super interesting about like thinking about that kind of macro level. In terms of like where I get my information about AI, I'm in a number of different school communities. SKOOL.
Oh yeah.
There's been a lot of great AI communities pop up there. So get a pretty, particularly around like AI automation. So just if you want to search on there, you'll find a whole bunch. I don't know how many newsletters I'm signed up to.
Yeah.
It's always a little overwhelming.
Thank goodness for the promotions tab is all I'll say.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So for me, it's kind of like, what I try to do is pay attention to what's coming in, but not get overwhelmed. And then kind of like, once I think something seems like, okay, this is like a very specific trend, then I'll look into it a little bit more. MCP was probably a little bit like that. At least it was for me. It's like, and actually I've talked with a bunch of other people in the space about this as well. Like, it can be very hard to pick what the next big trend is. So you don't really want to exert too much effort until it's kind of very obviously a trend. And I think that's why there was a tiny little slow burn on MCP for quite a few people. You didn't want to get too invested in it if it was just another flash in the pan. So so it's like mainly it involved a lot of school communities, a lot of newsletters, heavily involved still in Build Club, the AI community.
Oh, cool.
Like that's fantastic. I work in the Build Club office here in Sydney most days. Just keeping an ear on the ground. And then like taking my brain where the interest is.
Yeah, very cool. And how can people find you online? Obviously agentsy.sy.ai, but how else can people find you?
Agentsy.ai is is our main website. I'm on LinkedIn a bit, so just Tim Morris. I think my it's /TAC Morris. So cool. I'm on there. I actually probably need to post a little bit more, but happy to connect with anyone on LinkedIn, or my email address is tim@agentsy.ai. So happy to chat to anyone.
Yeah. No, I appreciate it. No, it's been really, really valuable. I think, it'd be great to sort of like regroup in 12 months time. It just feels like it's just so fast moving, and it's kind of like, just hold on,
That would actually be very funny if we regroup. Like, we have to listen to this episode first, and then we chat, and it would be like, were we completely right? Were we completely wrong? Somewhere in between? Who knows?
Yeah, no, it's very, very true. But yeah, I mean, I guess like the takeaway is if you're using AI, you're already in the top 1%. So you're doing great. So don't feel bad.
Yep.
It's changing dramatically, quickly. Even for you in the space, it's kind of overwhelming. So we all get that. I liked that point around don't sort of buy into the AI hype. It's really about solving business problems and how AI, it could just be one particular platform or tool.
Yep.
You don't need to sort of go crazy, but I just like that really methodical, sort of logical approach instead of kind of thinking that you need to do everything. And that great example of the AI SDR was a great example of like going way too much into the AI hype and then it sort of doesn't deliver, right? So just getting that balance between being curious, being innovative, but kind of tying it back, not doing it just for AI's sake, doing it because you're trying to solve efficiency, you're wanting to grow, whatever it is. Yeah, really love that approach.
Amazing. Good.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Tim. We will regroup in the future, no doubt. But yeah, really appreciate having you on the show today.
Thanks, Nathan. Great to catch up.
Cheers. Thanks, Tim.
Bye.